What if I told you that a piece of 1985 movie history had been sitting untouched for nearly 40 years in a building that wasn't even the theater where it originally belonged? That's exactly what happened with these 33 uncirculated copies of He-Man and She-Ra, The Secret of the Sword. It's our first major collection pickup of the year, and it comes with a wild story. On March 22, 1985, The Secret of the Sword hit theaters, introducing audiences to She-Ra, the twin sister of He-Man, and expanding the Masters of the Universe saga. To promote the film, theaters handed out this 6-page comic book summarizing the movie's story and, most importantly, featuring the first comic book appearance of She-Ra and her primary villain, Hordak. This comic was a true giveaway item. It was meant to be read, tossed aside, or maybe even tucked away by a lucky kid who saw the movie in theaters. Finding one in great shape today? That's pretty tough. Finding 33 uncirculated copies all perfectly stored for nearly 4 decades? That's pretty unheard of.
For the honor of Grayskull, Adora.
For the honor of Grayskull?
The film not only marked She-Ra's debut, but it also gave us one of the most iconic transformation sequences in animation history, where we see Adora transform into She-Ra for the very first time. That's a moment every 80s kid probably remembers.
For the honor of Grayskull!
So where did these comics come from? A seller reached out saying they'd found a box in a second-floor storage room of a building they'd recently purchased. That building was the former New Grand Community Theater in Fayette, Missouri. The crazy part? That wasn't even the theater that would have played The Secret of the Sword. The original Grand Theater, the one that actually would have handed these books out in 1985, used to be located down the street, but that building had been torn down in the time since.
He-Man, look out! What happened to them?
I've got a pretty good idea.
Hello, He-Man. Sorry you missed all the fun.
Much like She-Ra taking down Skeletor and his goons, this story had a few twists and turns. How did these comics make their way from the original Grand Theater to this new Grand Community Theater building down the road? Did somebody move them when the old theater closed? Were they just left behind? We may never know, but what we do know is that these books survived relatively untouched for nearly 4 decades. The rarity of these comics isn't just about age. This book gives us the first appearance of the villain Hordak, who's She-Ra's main nemesis in the Princess of Power series. And while they don't technically get called out as being the first full appearances, since this is a promotional comic book, it also is pretty much the first appearance of She-Ra in a normal comic book sized book, with her first appearance being in the mini comic that was sold with the toys. As we all know, in the world of comic collecting, first appearances are a big deal, and for fans of Masters of the Universe, this book could be a potential hidden gem. He-Man and She-Ra's stories have always been connected, and this comic serves as a physical representation of that bond. Just like the transformation scene before the final battle, The Secret of the Sword united these two legendary characters. Speaking of Motu fans, I had the chance to gift one of these copies to none other than Pixel Dan. If you're into Masters of the Universe, you already know he's one of the biggest voices in the fandom. Here's his reaction to seeing this book in person from his most recent toy hunting video.
It's always so cool getting to meet viewers of this channel and folks who really like the books, but it's Also really great anytime I get to meet any of my supporters over on Patreon, especially like Drew here, who surprised me with a pretty epic gift.
Out at the
They were
movies
supposed to. This would be one that never made it out.
Whoa!
Now, I also had all the folders that they would have slipped these in, but they're just plain manila, like fold back, folders. So it's not anything special. And plus, they've been in a hot Missouri building for 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
So all the adhesive had stuck together. But there was a box of 33 of those that God knows how many people had walked past over the years. And he's just like, I bought the building, this was there, and they got to be worth something to somebody.
That is so cool.
So I figured, if you didn't have one, you needed one.
I did not have this.
So you are the first person, outside of someone who owned a movie theater or myself, to own that.
Thank you, man.
Uncirculated.
This
There
is
you are.
so cool. Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it.
Oh, I love this. This is amazing.
Be sure to check out Pixel Dan's full video. I'll link it down in the description below. If you want to grab a piece of Masters of the Universe history, you're in luck. These books are going to be available at Planet Comic-Con Kansas City, which is taking place March 21st through the 23rd. And guess who else will be there? Melanie Britt, the original voice of She-Ra, and Alan Oppenheimer, the legendary voice of Skeletor. Which means, if you bring this book to get signed, you might hear something like this in person.
Skeletor to King Randor. Come in, you royal boob.
This is why I love comic book collecting. You never know what you're going to find, and sometimes the story behind the book is just as cool as the book itself. If you're coming to Planet Comic-Con, come say hi and check out these historic copies for yourself. We'll be set up in our usual spot, booth 1311. Let me know in the comments, do you remember seeing The Secret of the Sword in theaters? Have you ever come across a crazy collection like this? And if you're not already subscribed, hit that button for more comic book stories just like this one. Collect responsibly, and I'll see you in the next video.